Welcome into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. Man, not the outcome you guys hoped for or wanted. What does a game like this teach you, teach the team? What are the big things you feel like you can learn and grow from a game like that?
The biggest thing is, don't let it carry over to next week. I mean, we didn't play well in any facet of the ball game, and sometimes you just have to throw those out and start over again.
What was your message to the team in the locker room right after the game?
Oh, it was one game. We weren't too high when we won the first two ball games, not too low when we lost this one. Understand the mistakes, correct the mistakes, and make sure it doesn't happen again.
When you're going in to talk to a team after a game, how much do you stand and kind of think about what you want to convey, and how much is it just pure emotion that comes out of whatever you're saying?
I have to think about what I want to say, because if I don't, I can get on the roll pretty good. Then everything kind of comes out of my mouth, and some of the things you probably don't want to hear, but you always talk to the team about what actually happened to make sure they're not misled about anything, but at the same time, we got to wash it away and erase it and get ready for the next week.
So big picture on both sides of the ball now, having a little less than 24 hours to think about it. What were the big takeaways of why we just couldn't get going, especially early on either side of the ball?
I thought defensively we had two miscues early. Then we lacked pass rush up the middle to help everything. And offensively, we couldn't gain any yards running the football. They kind of doubled a couple guys in the passing game, and we made it tough. I mean, we did a lot of things wrong on both sides of the ball.
I know there's always the message of 24 hours, and that's both for wins and losses. Was there any sense that because of the highs of the Detroit game, were there any lingering emotions this week, or was this an entirely unrelated thing?
Totally unrelated. We had a good week of practice. The guys were ready to go. It didn't click. It did not click, and for one reason or another. We got to wash that away, and we got to get ready.
Does your process as a head coach change, whether it's a big win or a disappointing loss? Does that change anything about how you do your job?
My day is the same no matter what. It starts at 3:30 a.m. It ends whenever it ends, and win, lose, or draw, you do the same things every day.
I know it's the first time in 2 years that you guys have given up a couple touchdowns in the first quarter. Did it seem at all like this was some injuries catching up with us, when I know you guys are always going to say next man up mentality, but is there a point where it does start catching up to you?
I'm sure there's a point, but it wasn't yesterday. We had a chance to get off the field on 4th and goal. We missed 2 tackles down there, and we made another mishap going in on the other touchdown. So we allowed it, but it had nothing to do with injuries.
I know you mentioned not getting as much pressure up the middle as you would have liked, and last week you at least had Vita for part of the game. Now this was the first one where you were completely without both he and Kalijah the entire game. What did you see from the rest of the defensive line that was a little different maybe this game than last game?
They played hard. I mean, you can't fault the guys. They played hard. We know we're a little slow in that area, and we got to make up for that somewhere on the outside, as well as DBs and other backers blitzing, but they played hard and they fought.
Looking at the injuries, both sides of the ball, big picture, at this point, what do you know and not know about the chance of getting any of those guys back before next week?
At this point, we don't know anything. Right now, they're status quo, but I see them moving around better in the hallways, but I got to see them run before I know something.
And then take us through that near goal line stand where they ended up scoring from 4th and 1 on that pitch out. What went wrong there defensively?
Nelly had the play stopped dead to right, and the guy threw a move on him and got past him, and KJ could have laid out and went for his legs. I thought he had a shot at him too, and then he got in the end zone. I thought we went too high. We could have went from his waist on down, and we probably would have got him about the 2 or 3 yard line.
I know one of the defensive bright spots, of course, was the Levante forced fumble. He is second among all active players in that category with 29, obviously something he is very talented at. Why is that a stat so specifically that he is so good at?
He knows how to get the ball out. He has a very good knack for punching the ball out. Him and Winfield does as well, but he has a very good knack for punching the ball out and seeing when the guy's going down, and he can get his fist in there and he can make it happen.
How about the play of the inside linebackers overall? I know you've got Levante in there, and then you're doing a bit of a rotation with Servassier and KJ. What did you see from that unit in the game?
They had a lot of tackles. Some fits we can do a lot better. Some drops we can take a little bit more, but they got a lot better from last week. We still got to get better. We got about 2 or 3 more games before we round into form, and we got to get there quickly.
Then I know as far as run defense, there was in particular a 49-yard run by Beatty and a 22-yard scramble by Bo Nix. What happened specifically on those kind of bigger chunk plays?
And ball, we had the 5-man rush, and I think they opened the gap up. Somebody went too high, and somebody didn't go high enough, and he got out the pocket on us on the Beatty run. We just blew it. We had enough guys in the box, and we misfitted, and the ball got out, and that shouldn't have happened.
I know that Bo Nix definitely had a bit of a better game than his first couple as a rookie. What did he do better that you had seen from him from watching on tape? How much was him making good plays, and how much was us making some errors?
It was really the first 2 passes he threw, I think. The one he got on Dean and the one he got on Zion. Dean should have bailed that and been in cover 3, and Zion just missed him at the line because he was peeking in the backfield. After that, I thought they were just pretty much dink and dunk throws that didn't really bother us down the field, but he kept plays alive with his feet, and he did a good job doing that.
I know that you guys were able to hold them to 4 of 13 on 3rd down, which is a pretty respectable number there. So what do you feel like did go well there when, kind of easy to say big picture, oh yeah, neither side of the ball played great. That was obviously an area that you guys were still able to make some stands on.
If you get him in 3rd and 4, he was getting rid of the ball quick. Once we got him in longer yardage, we knew he would get rid of the ball and dump it, and we just had to tackle him.
And yeah, you talked about there was a 31-yard reception by Reynolds, 22-yarder to Sutton. Overall, though, like you said, after that, it wasn't as many of the deep balls. So were there adjustments you guys made, or what had kind of been able to limit some of that?
There were no adjustments. We didn't play the technique right the first time, so they got the 2 plays out the beginning, and they got 7 points off of it. But after that, we just settled down and played ball.
I know Tyke Smith had a nice pass breakup that was almost an interception on one play, also had a nice tackle for loss. What have you seen from him in this game and then just the start of his rookie year?
Just smart, tough, understands the game, very durable, makes plays all the time. We don't even think of him as a rookie, but he's so trustworthy out there that everybody hangs their hat on him.
And then Zion, again, almost another pick after his game before, had another nice couple pass breakups as well. How did his game look overall?
He competes, Take away the first play on a 22-yarder from Reynolds where he had his eyes in the backfield. He competed the rest of the ball game, and he played well.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here on the Todd Bowles Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. Jamel Dean, his play so far this year being kind of your top outside corner, the guy coming back from last year to be the steady Eddie out there. What have you seen from his games?
I thought the first 2 games he played well. Probably yesterday not so much. Probably one of his worst games. He'll bounce back from that. He just got to press bail a little bit more. He's got to be more in tune with the formations he's seeing.
And now your safeties have been without Antoine Winfield for a few games, and if you were to order the people on the team that maybe would have the most impact on a game by missing it, I imagine for you, especially on the defensive side, Antoine would be up there. So looking at how Jordan has played without him, and then Christian stepping into that spot, what have you seen from your safeties?
Jordan's played well. Jordan's played well for us since the season started. Izzy steps up, and he's filled in a lot of roles in a lot of ways, so we're satisfied with his play as well.
And then I know that the sack numbers have not been what I am sure you would hope for to start this season. What are the ways that sometimes we know sacks can be fluky, right? That you can, sometimes you can do all the right things, but if they're getting rid of the ball too fast, how much is it plays that you feel like we are leaving on the table versus just the situations haven't lent themselves for it?
I think we're leaving a lot of plays on the table. I think we can get a lot more pressure than we're getting, and we got to keep working at that and do it.
And then sacks, of course, aren't the only measurement for the success of a pass rush or your outside linebacker group in particular. What are some of the other areas you've been looking at with specifically your outside linebackers and their attempt at trying to get to the QB?
Just really getting off of blocks. They're starting to chip them more and more, getting in there. We got to understand how to play with the chip and understand how to use the proper technique and go underneath a little bit more, and we got to stun them a little bit more so they don't get chipped.
Definitely a couple crucial penalties in the game that changed, especially one of the potential turnovers and a few other impactful points. How did you feel about penalties in this game and then the season so far, of the ones that you'll live with and then the ones that you definitely don't want to?
Don't want to live with offsides and false starts. We had 3 offsides on defense. One cost us a turnover. One, we had them 3rd and behind the sticks, which would have been 4th down, which would have been about a high 40-something yard field goal. And you can't have the offsides. That's just discipline.
I know Bucky Irving was a bright spot in the game, 70 yards on 9 carries. What have you seen that he is really adding to this offense?
Bucky's tough. He can make the first guy miss. You know, we had some specialty runs in there for him, which were designed perfectly by Liam, but at the same time, he can run with the football and make the first guy miss almost every time.
And then take us through specifically his 32-yard run. And I mean, just the fact that he's had a few of those already as a rookie, to have more than 30-yard runs is pretty incredible.
He had one. It was a great play. It was a good call by Liam. It was almost like a college play, like the old wing tee, and he came from the side and he got through. Once he gets through the first level, he can make a lot of people miss in the secondary.
I know giving up 7 sacks, not really going to be the game plan that you shoot for. Hard to win a game giving up 7 sacks. So what happened on the sacks we gave up? How many were coverage versus, breakdown of the protection?
Some with the quarterback, some with the offensive line. So we got to do a better job of keeping Baker clean, and he's got to do a better job getting rid of the football.
What have you seen from the O-line trying to deal with, missing Luke and knowing what a unit they are, how important all that communication is, and that of any position group, if you remove one, we know that adds a whole, different factor to it. What are the ways that they've been able to try to handle that, and some of the ways you guys might try to handle it moving forward, depending on when he's able to return?
I mean, we've chipped some, but at the same time, they got to play. They're a close-knit group. They're tough. They know how to play. We just didn't play well yesterday.
And how about specifically the interior of the offensive line throughout the first 3 games? What have you seen about their ability, if that's being where the new people are on the line, the ability to gel and to be able to make some of the plays?
They've gelled well. They've played well the first 2 games. Yesterday, I thought we had pressure up the middle in the second half that we got to correct, and we got to get that fixed.
Knowing when there are 7 sacks, it's a little hard for the quarterback as well, I'm sure. What did you see from Baker's game and how he was able to try to handle things just not going the way you guys had drawn up?
I think initially I thought he was pulling the ball down too fast and trying to make plays, so he caused a couple of them. Then in the second half, they were getting through the middle of the line. He had no choice but to try and run. But we got to keep him clean. Got to keep him clean.
And what happened on his 1 interception?
Thought he lobbed it up there. I thought the guy made a heck of a play. He shouldn't have been thrown. It was covered pretty good. We wish we had that one back.
I know that Chris Godwin, again, the leading receiver, that it's just got to be nice to know that even when, again, like you said, very little is going the way you want in the game plan, that this is a guy who just continues to be able to show up consistently. What did you see from his game and then his touchdown specifically?
He's going to be the same guy every week. He's going to block. He's going to go over the middle. He's going to go outside. He's going to do whatever needs to be done. All of them do. I think they had extra coverage on Mike. We got to get him involved a lot more, especially early in the ball game. But Chris is steady Eddie for us. He was one of the few bright spots in the ball game.
All right, we're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back here on the Todd Bowles Show. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. I know Cade Otton, I know he did have a fumble in the game, which I'm sure he would like back, but otherwise had a career high in receptions, including a 13-yarder, which I think ended up being one of our longer passing plays of the game. So what was working well? That you mentioned how they were really trying to stop Mike and had some eyes on those other guys. What worked really well to get Cade as many targets when he'd really hardly been targeted these games before?
Well, Baker was getting the ball out of his hands, and Cade was the one open. He was making the most of it. I think he fought for too many extra yards when he fumbled the ball on the play, but he's been pretty reliable.
And then I saw Peyton Durham got an 8-yard reception. What do you see as his potential as a receiving tight end?
Payne's got a huge frame and a huge catch radius. He's not going to run away from you, but he can make the catches and tough catches if you throw it to him, and he's very trustworthy that way.
I know that when it comes to them focusing so much on Mike, there's the saying, like you mentioned earlier, of trying to get him involved earlier, but then there's also the idea of, are you forcing it to him in certain ways? How do you try to balance that, as you know he's going to be a focal point, but you also know you want to get him involved?
We got to design it better. We got to get him touches early. I mean, they're going to double team him. We know that. He's been double teamed his whole career, and he still makes those type of plays. So we just got to make sure we get ways to get him open.
And then I know you guys tried to go for it on a couple of 4th downs. What didn't seem to work quite as well on those plays in this game?
Whether it was protection, whether they had it covered right, or whether we just missed it. I mean, we were off. We were a tick off all day.
And then I know that special teams also ended up being a part of the game. That I know punting-wise especially, there was a booming punt at one point, one that was maybe a little bit shorter than he would have liked. What did you see from the punting side?
He got off a great punt the first one. I'm very happy about that. He had a good one and a fair catch. He had one that he kind of missed that rolled into a good punt, and then there was one that wasn't so well. So he's got to be better than that. He knows that, and it's been since preseason. He's got to get out of a slump.
then what did you see from your different coverage units?
The one coverage they had, the punt was real far, and they got some yardage on that. We didn't tackle well on that play. Everything else, they didn't really have to cover as much, so they protected and didn't get anything blocked, but we didn't change the game either.
3 games in, any initial thoughts on the new kickoff rules?
Not at this time. I mean, 25 to the 30 is pretty much not worth the risk of kicking it all away and letting somebody return it at this point.
And then now going into this Eagles game, how familiar do you guys feel with them now that you have faced each other? It feels like a lot of times for a non-division opponent at this point, and knowing also that you guys are essentially to them what the Lions were to y'all last week, of knowing that you're the team that ended their season last year. How do you try to use the familiarity and then the attitude of knowing how often you guys have had to face each other?
I mean, it's different. The people are the same, but they have different coordinators on both sides of the football, different stakes, different things at stake. They're a different team, we're a different team. So we're trying to find our way to get to 3-1. They're trying to find their way to get to 3-1. As far as familiarity, I think it's only in people only. Schematically, they've changed some, and we've tweaked some things, and we've changed some on the offensive side as well. So it'll be an interesting chess match.
All right, we're going to take one more break, and then we'll come back to continue breaking down that game against the Eagles. We'll see you then. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. All right, so let's talk about Jalen Hurts. Tell me what is challenging about facing a guy like that, and even what you've seen over his years now of what he's grown into.
He's gotten very much more in tune with when he can run and when he can't run. He's always dangerous when he runs, but he used to take off all the time. Now he looks to throw and runs only if he has to run, which makes him even more dangerous. He's a very good passer in the pocket. He's very good rolling to his right, our left, and he understands the offense a lot more, so it's going to be tough playing him.
I know at the time of us recording this, we don't know all the injury information for them either, and they had, at least Lane Johnson go down for a bit, so it'll be interesting to see what all of their offensive line is available. I think another one of their guys went down a bit. So tell me, looking at a healthy version of their offensive line, now without Jason Kelce, how much of a change have you seen in game plan or strategy for them, knowing how much they've loved that tush-push play in the past? What are the ways that they are still a formidable front and the ways that maybe they've changed a bit since the last time you saw them?
Well, they're huge, and they still have the tush-push, and they're still very good at it. But they can run the ball from Mailata to Johnson. They got all the guys in between. Becton playing guard now, who's a huge player. Have a great offensive line coach. They can still run the ball. They got Saquon now. With the weapons they have outside and the runner they have in the backfield, that gives them a two-headed monster.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley definitely had himself a game this last week as well. What has he looked like now into this offense and the ways that it could change some of the dynamics when, as you talked about, you already have to worry about guys like Jalen using their legs?
He's scary. I mean, he's scary. He can break one and bring it to the house at any time. You saw him run a 65-yarder against the Saints last week. He won the first game overseas against Green Bay, and he's a tough player.
I know A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, again, we don't know all some of the injury potentials, but if those two guys are able to go, what do they end up meaning to that offense?
Talented, very talented, gives them a lot of options.
And then looking at Dallas Goedert as well, that he's a guy that, especially in this last game, holy cow, he went off. I mean, those numbers for a tight end were wild. What are some of the things that he can do that maybe would surprise people?
He's one of the best two-way tight ends in the league. He can block and he can catch it. He can catch it shallow, he can catch it deep, he can hurt you in a lot of ways.
And then how about their defensive front? What do you see from them this year, knowing that especially in years past that's been a strength?
It's still a strength. Huge inside, they get a lot of penetration.
And then how about their secondary? What are some of the things that you notice about them?
Very good man-to-man corners with Slay, and then they drafted the one from Toledo. Outstanding players, a lot of speed.
So if you were to say this game, a key that you would want to see, especially based on how last week went, what's something on each side of the ball that would tell you you guys were able to put it behind you and move on? What would you want to see, especially maybe early in the game?
Well, no penalties, number one. The offsides and the false starts have got to be number one, and we got to be able to run the ball and get some more yards and stop the run.
Well, Coach, thank you as always for spending time with us. We really appreciate it, and good luck the rest of this week preparing for the Eagles.
Thank you.